If you're not a companion to your child, then something else AI
Yes.
will be that
Yes.
companion.
Students who use AI to write, they tend to cut and paste the answers and they can't even recall what they were writing.
Why don't you want to ask your parents? Because they are too slow.
Ouch.
Out.
Hi everyone and welcome to Canteen Chats. If you're a parent who's trying to make sense of school pressures, technology, and the everyday worries of raising a kid, this is the space for thoughtful conversation and a reminder that you are not alone. Before we dive into our topic, let me introduce our guest for today. Miss Carol Loi, she's a parent and digital wellness coach. Mrs. Florence Ng, Head of Department of Educational Technology from Beatty Secondary, and Professor Tan Seng Chee, an AI education researcher looking at how emerging technologies can strengthen learning. I use AI, but I don't quite understand it fully. And I think that we need to educate our children to learn to use AI responsibly. And that's why we are here today to share our thoughts and opinions. So when we think about kids and generative AI, what do you think adults are missing or misunderstanding most?
I think one of the common misconceptions is that AI thinks or knows like human being. Actually, it doesn't. It's just based on training from a large set of data. And then predicting the pattern, what's the next words, that's how they generate the answers. And because sometimes it sounds so convincing, so fluent, right, that sometimes it's completely wrong answer, but it still sounds like it's real answers. So I think it's very important for us to have a critical thinking about getting text from the AI.
So yes, I actually really resonate with that. Like as a parent, when you say AI, right, the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh, okay, AI is smart, AI knows everything. But actually, no, right? They do make mistakes too.
They
like
do make mistakes,
it's
yes,
not everything is 100% right.
Correct. Yes.
So Florence, I understand that right now AI is being used in school as well. But I think parents don't really understand how it is being used in school.
So for the lower primary, the teachers we're not encouraging them to use any AI tools. But P4 and above, it is okay, but with a lot of teachers' guidance. If we look at, for example, SALIS inside SLS is only available to the P4s and above. We do get the teachers to look at agency, the student's voice in their assignment. AI can prescribe, but what is your decision-making process? Do you think that that's relevant? Teachers do guide them in thinking about, is AI even accurate to begin with?
The concern that keep coming back to many parents is we like to take shortcuts. So what more children? Everyone's using AI now. And we know that just some click of a button, you actually get the answer to everything that you want. Let's take a look. Finished, sayang?
Just finishing up.
Let me see. Do you understand that sentence?
Not really.
Do it again.
What for? AI will do most jobs by the time I grow up anyway.
Whoa, got lots to say about that. Why did I talk like that? What is it, sayang? That's obviously AI. But what's scary is that if there's no sound, if it's just my face, it doesn't look like AI. It really looks like me. That is so scary. Until I open my mouth and talk like sabi sayang, I sound so strange.
I didn't know that it was AI generated until you tell me that it was.
Yep.
It looked really like, I would have thought that this was a legit,
Scene?
scene, yes.
Wow.
I thought it was real too until the girl started to open her mouth. It was a little bit more obvious.
Yeah.
I think for younger people, they may not be able to tell. And with technology moving so quickly, I am sure the difference between what is real and what is not real is going to get even more blurred.
Yeah, it's true. If I were to ask my 7-year-old daughter if this is real or not, she would say it's real. She wouldn't be able to tell that it's AI. And that's quite scary actually.
Yeah, so
right?
which is why the child development approach of looking at AI is so important.
In school, we do broach the topic of deepfakes. We do show them how deepfakes can really be working. And we do talk about reliability, cross-referencing with all the other sources that you have.
Okay, so yes, from the clip, you actually saw how Nabila, the character in Lion Mums, she actually used, that's like a shortcut, asking AI to actually do your work for you. And Seng Chee, you shared previously about the global phenomenon of metacognitive laziness. What does this mean?
Metacognitive laziness started with, I think, a research paper that was published by researchers from Monash, from Peking University, and Zhejiang Research Center. So I think the title is Beware of Metacognitive Laziness. And in that study, what happened was that students who use AI to write, they tend to be using, like what you saw in the video, cut and paste the answers, and they can't even recall what they were writing. So, and that is a phenomenon referring to when students delegate the cognitive effort to the AI and not actually thinking and not learning. If we just offload everything to AI without going through our thinking process, without owning the whole process, and that's what will happen.
Yes. Is there a good way or correct way to use AI?
Teachers use them for different purposes. It must be fit. When we talk about the key applications of technology, what do the teacher want to achieve at the end? Is it to increase motivation? Is it for personalization? Is it to help them with fostering conceptual change? So I think at the end of the day, when we design a lesson for the students using tech, AI, the teachers know what is it, the goal that they are trying to drive at. And that is factored into our lessons for our students.
I also understand that AI also helps students who are not very confident in themselves. Like some kids, they don't know how to start on a project. They ask AI for a prompt and AI help them.
It does help a lot in motivating the kids, unwilling learners, because I feel that I am not good in anything at all. Why am I here in this lesson? I can't do math for nuts, for example. But the learning can be structured for the students. AI can help to prompt, okay, you have done this is good. Then what's the next step that you can take?
Right.
Perhaps you want to try looking at this. So it does help the students, motivate the students a little bit more so that they can spur them on.
I find it quite sad if I give a child a blank paper and say, you can draw whatever you want. And the child turn around and say, what should I draw? I don't know what to draw. Isn't it very sad that we should let a child be creative, right? Think a little bit more first, right? Really, until you cannot think anymore, then we go and look for it. And not immediately, I don't know. Immediately I go and look for a tool to help me. And so I find that when I talk to families about the use of AI and what we can nurture, we take a sandwich approach. We start with a human first, right? We think about what we need to do, what is important, what do I think as much as I can first. And then I would use a tool to help me to maybe generate even more ideas. And ultimately, it must end with a human. It must end with me.
I'd like to chime in to give an analogy. If you think about using GPS to scaffold in your driving, you still retain the driving skills. And GPS is basically helping you to navigate, but you get to practice your driving skill. But let's say if you're using a self-driving car to bring you from point A to point B, that's augmenting performance, but you don't get to practice your driving skills. So I think it depends on purpose, what you want to do. So I think likewise, bringing it to the context of learning.
I think it's about asking also the right questions, because rubbish in, rubbish out. Right? So that's what I tell my students too. So you must be critical enough to think about what questions can you ask. You should ask better questions so that you get better answers. It was quite interesting because last year, when I get my students to do a report, I commented on their first draft. And then I sent it back to them. I said, okay, you can use the comments I've given and then do a better draft for final submission. And for the fun of it, I actually threw it into chat. And I said, this is what chat tells you. Okay, then you compare it with mine. What is the differences? What are the similarities? And then they cheekily did the same thing. After they finished a final draft, they threw it back into chat again. Okay, tell me, how can I further improve? And the growls that they came back to is, they keep telling me that this is not good, but I already improved, but it's still the same thing. They still come and then I ask one question. Did you throw in the rubrics? They say, I didn't.
She's actually teaching the students about metacognition, about thinking through what are the important criteria when you want to assess an essay. Okay? And that kind of thinking is not common. Okay? Because sometimes the students will take back the rating from the teachers, the comment from the teachers, but one step further is to think about what is so important in writing, what are the criteria to assess writing.
I think another misconception is that learning is just about the output, the final product, but in actual case, the process is also very important. The ability to struggle through it and thereafter gaining a deeper understanding. The joy of actually finding out that, oh, I can do it. I struggled through it, but I learned the concept. I can pass the concept now to someone else. I can teach that concept. That joy of it is actually something very real.
There was an American researcher, Carol Loi, who talked about learning goal versus performance goal. And that sort of changed my life because she helps me to understand that if we pursue learning goal, then we actually aim for difficult task. We want challenge. We want to learn something. Whereas performance goal is like you want to complete the assignment, you want to complete the examination, you just want to show that you can do it. And if you have a performance goal, you like to tackle easy task, and then you give up quite easily. So I think, adding to what Florence said, we can encourage our children to have set learning goals, and that the joy of learning, that they achieve something that is with them all throughout their life. That's very important.
Yeah, the idea of productive failure and productive struggle is important.
I'd like to add with a 4-learn framework. Okay, learning with AI, learning about the AI, learning to use AI, and learning beyond AI. So many times when we talk about learning with AI, people are thinking about when we don't know the answers, we go to AI for answers, like searching using a web browser. But that's not the only way to learn. I think learning with AI meaning that you maintain the control, the agency, and then you learn with the AI as a partner. So I think as a thinking partner, so you get ideas from the AI, and then you think about it, you get probe deeper, ask for different perspective, evaluate the answers. That's learning with AI.
Right.
And we also need to learn about the AI, how it works,
Yeah.
okay, the ethical aspects of AI, how to use it productively, how to prompt it so that you can get the answers that you want, better answers that you want, and how to probe deeper. So that's learning about the AI, learning to use AI. And I think very importantly, learning beyond AI. And that's where you demonstrate your competencies without the support of AI. But with the support, AI can do even better.
Right.
So I think learning with AI, about the AI, learning to use AI, and learning beyond AI, I think holistically they form a better picture of how we can learn together with AI.
Right.
I have a question.
Yes.
How can we scaffold it for children? Are there different stages or windows of opportunities that we should be mindful of, whether it's at school or in the home?
There's this strategy called gradual release of scaffolding. So when younger children were not so ready, so I think the adults can do demonstration, modeling, like show them how to do it, explain to them in the process of how we do it, explain to them why we're doing it this way. Like AI may give you wrong answer, so why do I need to think through, evaluate the answers? And then as they grow older, when you think that the student is ready, you can gradually release a scaffold and give them more autonomy to complete the task.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we talk about readiness, right? From a parent's perspective, how do I know whether my child is ready or not ready? Social media came out maybe like 20 years ago, and now we are seeing some countries starting to say, hey, we need to wait until a certain age.
Yes.
Do we think that AI is going to be something like that? That we are now in this huge social experiment that maybe 15, 20 years down the road, we're going to say, hey, maybe we should have held back a little bit more. What can we learn from what happened with social media?
Yeah. In fact, if you look at some of the tools that's readily available, they have an age limit.
Yeah.
So I think like OpenAI is 13 years and above. Claude is like 18 years and above. So they do recommend certain age restriction. I think that's intentional and that's important. It doesn't mean that below that age you don't use it, but use it with guidance, use it with scaffolding, use it with teachers, teaching them how to do it. So it's not so much of which age, but really I think you work with your children in your class, you know where they are, and then you scaffold them towards more mature use and more ethical use of AI.
And whether students are ready or not, I think we must know our students well.
Yeah.
Teachers must know their students well enough to see, okay, where are they? Also, a student agency is something very important. That the teachers do teach. You don't take everything wholesale. Okay, can you critique what AI is telling you? Can you ask it even more questions so that it can sharpen your idea of the topic that you are talking about? I think that sparring partner with AI is also can be beneficial for the students.
Yeah, it's just very interesting that most of the AI tools have a 13, I believe.
13 and
Yeah,
above,
whereas in our school in Celis, it's 10. It sounds like it's 10.
With teachers' guidance.
With teachers' guidance. And the reality is that, I mean, as you mentioned, children have different pace or
Right,
developmental stage. I think that could be a challenge in some classes.
Yeah. And Florence, I was informed that there's guardrails in school, right? So you guys will know if students are talking to chatbots and asking questions that is nonsensical questions with the chatbots. You guys will be informed, like you get a prompt or something?
Okay, if we looked at SLS, for example, Celis, the teachers get a preview of what questions the students are asking. They also have prompt questions that the students can straight away click and then there will be answers. And following up, Celis asks more questions and the students can answer. If they go off topic, Celis points them back. So, and the teachers have preview to whatever conversation is going on in Celis. So there are guardrails, and the teacher also did explicitly tell the students, I can see what you are talking to this AI bot about.
So using AI in school, you can say is safe because teachers and MOE actually take precautions and they are very careful to ensure that AI is being used responsibly in school. But at home, it is when the parents take over. And I believe connection is very, very important. We need to know what our children is doing on their phones. And I think it's very challenging for some parents who are always at work. And that is something that I think parents have to step up and we have to put in a little bit more effort to get closer to our child to find out what they are doing on their devices.
Yeah. Parental control is not really control per se. I think what is more important for us to do in the home is to build that moral compass, that internal filtering that the children will know. But that takes time.
Yes.
It takes time for their brain to develop, for them to appreciate why certain things are healthy and certain things are not healthy. For parents, we should also talk to them about how AI is pervasive in technology like social media. It's in gaming. It's not just about helping us to do homework. It's just one aspect of AI. And then there's also about AI in chatbots. Are they developing? What is the relationship that we have with AI from the school perspective? Not just learning academically, but how are we developing our children's identity, their sense of purpose? These are the conversations I feel that is really important, and it starts from home because it's beyond
Yes.
AI. It's beyond about what we use it for learning.
One thing that feels new compared to earlier tech is that AI can feel relational. It responds, remembers, and affirms. How do we actually help kids navigate this to ensure that they don't depend on AI and technology, but rather we want them to come to us?
We need to be fully present with our children, not just physically present, but emotionally present. It's so much easier to now go to a device, talk to a bot, when we are the ones that we want our children's attention, so that we can instill values. So the human touch is so important, increasingly more important.
Yes, it is.
I mentioned about learning with AI and also learning about AI. I think that's the point that you mentioned. That they need to learn about AI in the sense that it can talk to you, but it's not human being. It cannot replace human being. I think that balanced view is very important.
And what is human?
What is human? What's the unique
What is a
characteristics
friend?
human?
A friend, is it somebody who listen to you, but my bot can listen to me? It is a friend, somebody who will tell you stuff. My bot can tell me stuff. But a friend is somebody who is courageous to tell you things you may not want to hear.
Yeah, because an AI is very positive and affirmative. Everything is fantastic. Well done. Good job. This is great. But a friend will tell you the truth, and your parents will tell you the truth. So, I mean, speaking to humans is still, of course, the best.
Important.
I think the willingness to chat with their parents is important.
Yes.
I know of young children, because I work with children also. I ask them certain things we should be asking parents. Why don't you want to ask your parents? Because they are too slow.
Ouch.
Ouch. I felt the same way too, because my parents are too slow. Either they are not around or they are just not there when I need the answer. And I have a tool that can give me an immediate answer. Why not? How can we The reality is that parents can't be with the kids all the
Yes,
time.
yeah. And I think for parents, something's got to give. You want more time with your children, something's got to give. And that is something really, really difficult. I understand. But I appreciate the fact that there are age limits to when you can use AI. But there are also children who are so smart. They know how to change some applications. They can still download it even though they are below the age limit. And that's where, again, parents come in. You have to ensure you know what your children are doing on their devices.
Yeah, I think having that connection is so important.
Yes.
And that connection includes learning to slow down together.
Yes.
And we talk about habits in the home.
Yes.
In a world that is very fast changing, you need to keep up. We need to keep up with our children. But how about we slow down together?
Yes,
Have that
yes.
space to just enjoy outdoors, talking to neighbors, smiling at faces and not screens. It's such a beautiful thing to do together as well.
Yes.
I think that for me, my children, right, they hang out a lot with my friends too, which I think is wonderful because if they feel uncomfortable to talk to me about it, they feel comfortable enough to still talk to another human being, but in the form of my very good friend who's very close to my daughter. And I think that's really helpful as well. As long as there's some kind of human connection, human touch there, I think that's very important.
Yeah, it's like concentric circles.
Yes,
it starts
correct.
in the home, and beyond the home, there's the school,
Yeah.
there's community, and beyond that, then there's society at large.
Yeah, I think school CCAs. I think that my daughter loves CCA. She has so many activities, and
What is
she really
her
enjoy.
CCA?
She had Girl Guides. She did canoeing herself outside the school, and she had a student council. She was just so busy every day. Sometimes when we go out for dinner, she'd say, "I need to go home because I have a meeting."
Wow.
My daughter has a meeting, we have to go home earlier. but I really love that she enjoyed herself so much in schools, having a lot of CCAs, as well as doing homework. So she's stretched cognitively, physically, emotionally. I think she's all well balanced in a school environment. That's something that I appreciate very much.
Yeah, that's important too.
Physical activities,
Instead of letting them get bored, be bored and then start to go to technology and ask things.
If you're not a companion to your child, then something else
Yes.
AI will be that
Yes,
companion.
Parents would want to be a companion.
Yeah, you would want your child to come to you instead of going to technology.
Yes.
Well, yes. And
And
I
I-
think parents also need to learn because I think technology is so advanced now. We do not want to be the one left out and not know what the children are doing in school. Pick up all these skills that we need to understand as well so that the children can also come to us and ask us instead of ask technology.
One of the strategies that I use is actually ask my daughter to teach me.
Ah,
So very interestingly, I gave her a Canva account, Canva that can do presentation,
yeah.
and she's so good with that.
wow.
I didn't know that she can actually do video editing with that. I thought I just do PowerPoint-like thing. And then one day I saw her doing video editing. I said, "Which tool are you using?" She said, "No, the Canva that you gave me." I said, "Wow, it's so powerful." And then through the conversation of children teaching you, there's a point in which you can actually start a conversation with them. Okay, ask them, why do you do this? Why do you do that?
Yes.
Why do you use this prompt? I think there's actually an opportunity for them to have a kind of agency. Like I'm teaching my parents,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And it built their confidence
Yeah,
as well.
and then that conversation can start.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's true. That's what it's like with my daughter. So my daughter calls me a boomer, by the way. Shaista, that hurts. Yeah. So every time she's the one who teaches me things. Like for real, Canva. She is so good with Canva. My husband asked her to design posters and all that. And I think it's really nice to have that kind of connection with your child, to like, hey Shaista, can you help me with this? Can you design a poster for me? And she'll be, okay, what kind do you want? I think that's a powerful way of using technology and to connect with your child at the same time.
Yes.
So if AI can do more and more what humans can do, what should parents and educators emphasize when talking to kids about their future?
I think the values that govern them is very important. AI can take away your jobs, yes. But what is it that AI can't take away from you? It's your values, it's your moral compass. It's your ability to fall and rise back again and to do something different, to learn and to relearn. That resilience is very important. I think people-to-people relationship, connection, resilience, all these soft skills are more important now than it has been.
Yes, yes. Your character, your personality, the way you socialize with people. I think these are very, very important as well. It's not just, you depend on technology, yes, to make your work easier, But at the end of the day, you still come to work, you still meet people, you still have to talk to
Yes.
people and socialize. That's something that we need to tell our children about. Yeah, Carol, anything you want to add?
I find that increasingly it's even more important to talk to our children about what life is. Even if we go very fast, is speed everything in life? Should there be moments that we slow down? Should we build into our weekly schedule, daily schedule that we can slow down and reflect? Reflect without an AI, but reflect with our mind, thinking about what has happened in the day. Is there something that I can do better tomorrow? And what is life about? Is it just running and running and running? What am I going to do? And for me, when I talk to my children and the young people around me, is life is not just about us. Life is about using what we have learned to add value to people. How can I help somebody else? How can I guide someone else towards creating an environment, a country that is and not just enjoyable. It's not just about happiness, but can we help one another to stay safe, stay healthy, and then create a nation that is flourishing, that would enable us to just enjoy one another in safety.
Seng Chee?
Yeah, I think in an increasingly AI-infused world, there are a lot of saying about the competition is not between human and AI, but between human and people who know how to make full use of AI in a productive, ethical way. So what is uniquely human is becoming very important. So you can use AI, I can use AI. So what is so different, right? So the ability to connect with people, ability to think creatively, to create new ideas, that become very important.
Thank you so much for all your insights. But before we leave, maybe we can hear some last words from the three of you.
I think at the end of it all, if we look at the whole education system, the students are in the center of what the teachers do. So whether it is with or without AI, I think our main concern is to grow the student holistically. When we design our lessons, we design it based on how students learn best. AI or any other tech tool for that matter is just another tool in our repertoire.
I want to land on 3 P's. The first P, it's about purpose. I think we want to use AI purposefully. Is it for entertainment? Is it to help me to do homework only? Is it to develop relationship? Then we need to be watchful. So know the purpose and guide our children on purpose. Second one is about process. How are our children learning to think about their thinking? Think with them, especially for the younger ones, to help them to process their thinking or process their emotions. And the last P, it's about people. That is about human relationship. Human is really at the center. How do we help our children develop human relationship and appreciate that being human being is complex? It's not always something that's very fast. So 3 Ps: purpose, process, and people.
Thank you, Carol. Seng Chee.
I'm going to sound like a broken record. I'm going to go back to my 4 learn again. I think to be holistic, we learn with AI, learn with a purpose, learn with critical thinking. We learn about AI, how it works, the ethical aspects of AI. We learn how to use it productively, effectively, ethically. And we learn beyond AI to develop important competencies in life.
All right, thank you so much. With the right guidance and collaboration, our kids can thrive even with AI. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you like this episode, like it, share it, and leave a comment. And don't forget to tune in to other episodes of Canteen Chats where we'll explore big questions about education, parenting, and more. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.